When I had my son, it was 1993. I took the semester off from school. I had been at SMU a couple of years by then and was working towards my college degree. I had also started my own company, and I was working with my mother on our first home health care company. And it was just a challenging time as far as work was concerned, because I was learning how to be a business person, and I was pregnant at the same time. While I had been in the healthcare industry, I certainly had not owned my own business prior to then. What I went to college for and what I actually do are certainly two different things. I have an undergraduate degree from SMU in African American Studies and History, and I had matriculated quite a few hours towards a degree in economics, but unfortunately I had my son and I was just ready to graduate college. I didn't want to continue, so I asked my counselor, what did I have enough credit hours in that I could get a degree and be out of there at a certain time? And so she said, you have enough for a degree in history if you take one more class, and you've got enough for a minor in African American Studies. And so that's what I graduated with my degree in. I was still probably about 12 hours short on my econ degree. The first company I started was Abacus Home Health Care, and that was with my mother in 1993. What drew me to the healthcare field was that my mother was a registered nurse. I had grew up with her nursing, from her doing things like being a director in a nursing home, working nursing homes, being a nursing home consultant, going to school at Mary Hardin Baylor University in Killeen. As a child, or as children, my brother and I would have to go on campus with her during the summers while she took classes. Just growing up all around the healthcare arena, to eventually when she started her own home health care company with a partner of hers in 1984, I believe. I had always worked with her, whether it was voluntarily or involuntarily, and I had always been around, and so it was natural for me to move into that arena with her. My mother was a very dynamic person. She liked to think of herself, of course, as a very forward-thinking person, and she had the business savvy as far as being able to get the business, but she didn't know how to work on a business or in a business. But she was an excellent nurse, and definitely probably should have been a doctor. She was wonderful with her talent for medicine. I definitely think that working with my mother was one of the most challenging yet one of the most rewarding experiences of my life, because it taught me a lot of things about who I was and who she was. And at the end of the day, I would definitely agree with the sentiment. You shouldn't work with your family unless it's something that you all have cohesively, because when one person has a talent in one area and one person has another talent in another area, if the talents don't mesh together and you're not on the same page, it does cause a strain on familiar relationships, and just the whole concept of what you bring to the table is different. Of course, I was a different era from my mother, so some of the things that she agreed with, I didn't agree with, and some of the things that I agreed with, she didn't. Our relationship definitely was strained, I would say, because of the business. And even in the end, when we didn't have the business, it remained strained for a number of years, and probably never recovered, just because of so many things that were dynamic that happened in the business. Well, honestly, one of the earliest successes was the business and the failure of that business that made me see you need multiple streams of revenue so that you don't have all of your eggs in one basket. And so that would be the thing that opened me up to say, hey, you've got to do more than one thing. And it's not that the additional thing has to compete with whatever it is you're doing as the primary, but to be a supplement for the other thing that you're doing. There are a lot of problems with the healthcare system right now that I would love to tackle. One of the main issues is equality in healthcare. And healthcare is managed, and it's managed to the point that sometimes some of our people don't get the care that they need because we aren't getting the authorized visits, we aren't getting the authorized care, and it's a matter of us being able to be an advocate for ourselves and having other people who truly recognize the needs that can be diverse. One patient is not a cookie cutter patient, and so everybody deserves the right to be treated individually and addressed based on their needs. I would advise them to start working for a company that does whatever it is that they want to do so that they can model the behavior. Take those snips and clips from that, start putting together your business proposal and your business plan so that you can maybe start on a small scale, figure out what your niche is, and grow it from there. Well, the podcast had always been an idea, maybe not so elevated as what it came to be, but it was definitely an idea for me and a concept, because my entire business career I've had people who wanted to know how to do this or how to do that, and just sharing the entrepreneurial knowledge and the entrepreneurial skills that it requires to be a business owner. I thought that was something fundamental for our people in general, because so many lack the knowledge or don't know where to start or how to start. And I thought the podcast would be a good way. Hey, if this person is on and this is what I want to do, maybe I can get some nuggets out of this. Well, taking your talents to South Beach does not mean that you aren't still local talent in Texas. One of the things as a business person that I've seen evolve over the last 30 years is the use of the computer, the internet. You have to keep in mind that I came along at a time where there was a typewriter. A fax machine meant that you put a document into the machine, you dialed a phone number, and you faxed it over. Today, you can do so much more than you could do back then, and the speed of what you can do things is a tremendous asset. So if you do have a Texas business and you do live in South Beach, you're able to do that and manage. The thing is the talent that you're managing, and you have to make sure you have the resources, you know, in place. So I wouldn't say it was a bad idea, even if you go to South Beach, you know, once a month and work for a week from South Beach, and you can still manage in Texas. That's doable with the electronic systems that we have now. Well, one of the biggest things for the home care industry was that we went from paper to computer, and some home care still operate on paper, which is unfathomable in this day and age. But the thing about the computer, e-fax, for those of you who use that, and email, is that you have your referrals and you have what you need in a split second. So it's not all of the downtime trying to read through the fax, taking paper off the machine, processing paper. Even now for us, orders and so forth go out electronically, or they go out over the e-fax. And so that has been a time saver. The competition comes down to who gives the best quality of care typically, or who has the most referral sources and relationships. So in that sense, the business is still old-fashioned. It's about building relationships, but in the other sense, you do need to have the technology so that you can have the bandwidth to keep up. Some referrals only come electronically, and so if you can't log into their system and see what's available, you miss out. Well, one of the things that you have to make sure of is that they genuinely care about the patient and they're not there for the money. That's one of the biggest things that I look for, is the quality of that care. Of course, everyone asks for what they think they're worth, and a lot of times they're not worth the dollar amount that they think they're worth. But the biggest thing for me is making sure that they have an interest, a true, genuine interest in the patients and the patient's care, because you don't want sloppy work. When I took my first break from Abacus at the end of '99, I was looking for something different to do. I thought childcare would be easy, and I wanted to do a daycare. I wanted to do something that would benefit the kids in an underserved community and where they could have a different programming style. I had a lot of lessons to learn, and I was definitely naive about what it took to run the business. But I can say I have enjoyed it, and the biggest part of enjoying it has been the kids. It's challenging work and hard work. So I think one of the biggest indicators of what's going on in a daycare center would be your child care licensing regulation website, which shows what they've been written up for. The other thing, you should be welcome to come into a center. Now, I know with everything going on with COVID and all of that, some access is limited, but if nothing else, you can get a virtual tour. And you want to look for daycare centers that subscribe to best practices, and best practices include a lot of the things that you all do at home, but cleanliness is definitely important in a center. Curriculum, I would say, is important, and having loving staff. A lot of times with daycare centers being under pressure, you can't really figure out what a person is about until they get in and get involved with your kids. But you definitely want to make sure you're at a center where they do best practices. Having a personal life and having multiple businesses, one of the things that I like to think that I do well is try to have weekend time with my kids and with anyone else that I need to have weekend time with, but just scheduling things, I'm not the type of person, I don't limit myself to things, so it just depends on what's going on, really. But I do work a lot. I work at least 60 hours a week on a typical week. I'm a shopaholic. So I do shop a lot, I will admit that. But the other thing I like to do is I like to travel and I like to read. Reading takes you into another space, and so I love to read. One book recommendation that I would recommend, what I'm reading now, and I don't know how I missed it when it first dropped, but Zora Neale Hurston, her book, it's the latest book out. I can't even think of the name of it. I think it's on my nightstand. But that's a must. It's about the last slave ship that came from Africa, the last known one, and it landed in South Carolina, kind of like in the Alabama area, and it's really good. It comes from a perspective, it was written now almost 100 years ago, but it was written in 1929 and just released in 2019, I believe. The book is excellent, and it comes from the perspective, she talked to the last known slave, essentially went to his house, interviewed him over the course of several months, and she was backed by a wealthy Caucasian person, who was able to afford for her to do this. And just the whole narrative of it, there's a documentary out on, I believe that was Netflix, about the boat and about the different things that are going on. They're trying to pull the boat up and actually restore it so that you can go on, I think it's called the Matilda. So I would definitely recommend that book. And Michelle Obama just dropped a new book. Just starting out and wants to be an entrepreneur, you have to have mentors and you have to have guided leadership. One of the things that I love about all of the guests on Big Texas Bossin, the things they have stated, the mentorship is important, role modeling is important, and make sure you have that so you don't have to walk the avenues alone and not, have as many mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but you can definitely limit them by listening to people who have been down the same road you've been. Well, season 3 of Big Texas Bossin has been amazing. The thing that I'm most excited about is the quality of the guests. I think the quality of the show could actually go on to be something that's definitely nationally syndicated on a different platform. Really, I was thinking more of the YouTube channel and doing all of that, but really, the show, the quality of the show competes with the other shows that I'm watching on TV. So it's interesting to see that evolve, because when the concept of it came out, and initially they were like, oh, TV, I'm like, no, it's not that. But then when I've looked at the Black excellence that we have had on the show and the Black excellence that keeps elevating, I'm like, the world might need to know about this. If I could be on one network, it would be OWN. I love OWN Network and the quality of the shows that they bring. It's not like some of the other networks where you see the cat fights and all of that. And when there is a dispute, it's resolved. And if it's not resolved, it's still resolved amicably. Well, I do like to watch the OWN channel, and I do like Love and Marriage Huntsville. Now, I don't watch a whole lot of TV, but on Sunday night, I do dedicate some time to 90 Day Fiancé. And of course, if the Dallas Cowboys are playing, I'm watching. Now, granted, by me being from the Dallas area, I did see like Troy Aikman, Emmitt Smith, Michael Irvin. I came into the Dallas Cowboys kind of in that era. And so from there, I watched from a distance, and really I got hooked after I got married and we started going to the game. And so that's when I really became hooked into the Dallas Cowboys. So probably 10 years or more now. Big Texas Bossin can be found on all streaming platforms as well as the YouTube channel. We're on social media, all channels at Big Texas Bossin. Thanks for tuning in to Big Texas Bossin Podcast. If you like these conversations, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and follow us on all social media platforms at Big Texas Bossin. Tag us on social at #BTB.